Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be the Super Mario Bros. Movie, number 2 would be Renfield, number 3 would be John Wick Chapter 4, number 4 would be Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and number 5 would be Air. And I got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend, but funny enough, it's not because I got like a set of 3 correct, like 3 in a row, or like 1, 2, and maybe 5. It's like I got number 1 right, I got number 3 right, and then number 5 right. A very odd number that, 2 movies, number 2, number 4 here, swapped around. A movie that I didn't think was going to get into the top 5 landed at number 2. Took me off balance. I'm sure it took all of you guys off balance as well. Let's go over what actually happened because it's quite interesting. And I think next weekend, not number 1 necessarily, but, the other numbers are going to be interesting to try to predict, but let's go over what actually happened. Number 1 was, once again, the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Obviously, like I said last time, there's not going to be like an all-around like family film to take, everyone to for the next couple weekends until, I guess, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So Mario's going to continue to dominate. It only dropped about 40%, which is a fantastic hold, especially after the, amazing opening they had. It made $87 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $347 million. So let's go over the domestic stats real quick. So for the year 2023, this is the film to beat. It is the highest grossing film domestically so far. It outgrossed Ant-Man Quantumania by $135 million. Jesus Christ. I know that, Ant-Man opened pretty poorly, and this movie obviously had, everything going for it, but just that number just astounds me that it outgrossed an MCU movie that quickly, especially one that was like hedging everything on like, this is the one you gotta see for the next couple movies in this phase. Incredible. Anyways, for Illumination, though, it has outgrossed The Lorax by $133 million, The First Despicable Me by $96 million, Minions by $11, Sing and The Grinch by $77, and Despicable Me 3 by $83 million. So this is already, climbed the ranks entirely, and it is only now behind Despicable Me 2 and The Secret Life of Pets by $21 million. So this is going to become the highest grossing Illumination film. Next weekend we're going to be seeing that happen pretty much. Like it's right there. It's kind of amazing, to be honest with you. As far as the worldwide numbers go, it is now sitting at $677 million. It's only a matter of time until it crosses over the billion point. For the year 2023, it is the highest grossing film of the year, outgrossing Ant-Man Quantumania by $211 million, and those 2 other Chinese productions. I will not attempt to butcher the names, I'm sorry, but it's already outgrossed those ones. And yeah, this is the film to beat pretty much so far. This is setting the records. For Illumination, it has outgrossed Sing 2 by $273 million, The Secret Life of Pets 2 by $231, The Grinch by $165 million, Sing by $46, and The First Despicable Me by $134 million. So now it just needs $208 until it outgrosses The Secret Life of Pets. But the most interesting part for the worldwide numbers here is when you compare it to other video game films that came before. Now, in its opening weekend, its opening 5-day weekend to be more specific, Super Mario already outgrossed every other film domestically, but worldwide it still had some ways to go. So it has, since last weekend, it has outgrossed Uncharted by $277 million, Sonic 2 by $272 million, Rampage by $250, Detective Pikachu by $248, and Warcraft by $239 million, thus making it the highest grossing video game movie worldwide. But with this and the domestic total, that's just of all time right there. This is it. This is the movie, the video game adaptation to end all of them, apparently. This is the one that has grossed the most money out of all of them, and it's only done it in 2 weeks. That's insane. This movie is a beast. I don't really have much more to add other than, I kind of expected that it would, continue how it did last week, and it was going to have a pretty strong hold, and here you go. So now with that all out of the way, let's move on to number 2, which was the big surprise for me, The Pope's Exorcist. After what happened with, like, Pray for the Devil, or even, like, Uma, not really the same because that was a little ways into 2022, like still March then, and Pray for the Devil was a little bit more recent, but this really took me by surprise. I didn't really expect this movie to be kind of the powerhouse outside of Mario, of course. It made $9 million, so obviously, compared to Mario, not that good. It's not even close, like in the double digits like Mario is, but, It's number 2, that's crazy. And this is on a budget of $18 million. And to make things even better, worldwide, it is sitting at $36 million. So with that budget of $18 million, they have already doubled that. This director, as far as his personal filmography, he has an Amazon Prime movie with Sylvester Stallone, but he also has Overlord, which came out a couple years ago, 2018. This had a opening 1 million below Overlord's. Overlord opened with 10 million, but it still needs 12 million until it outgrosses Overlord domestically, but worldwide it needs 3 million. So, domestically we're going to be seeing that happen, I think, next week or even the week after. Worldwide it's going to be happening in the next couple days. That's kind of crazy, I really didn't expect this movie to be kind of the powerhouse, that it was. And of course I'm saying that kind of loosely because, you see this number and you're like, that's not really a powerhouse, but considering its budget, considering that it's number 2, beating out all these other movies that I thought, definitely had a better chance, yeah, this is kind of a powerhouse. That's kind of crazy to me. Let's move on to number 3, though, which is John Wick Chapter 4. And yeah, you may be able to take his number 2 spot, but, he is still the champ overall because he's made so much money, making $7.9 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $160 million. It is 11 million behind John Wick Parabellum domestically. And then it's the highest grossing John Wick film domestically. But worldwide, it is sitting at $349 million, so it has outgrossed John Wick Parabellum by $22 million there. So domestically, it still has a ways to go, but worldwide, where it really counts, that's everything, it is already the highest grossing John Wick film, so there you go. I know there was some conversations of well, we're gonna try to make a John Wick 5, even though this is supposed to be a big finale, but I'm betting, after this, and maybe betting on, how Ana de Armas's spin-off, The Ballerina, goes, or how the Continental Limited series event goes. They'll probably find, maybe not John Wick 5 necessarily, but they'll find ways to keep spin-offs going, bring back Donnie Yen or Akira, that character Akira, all these other things. Yeah, this will never end at this point. This movie's made too much money. What hasn't made any money, though, number 4, Renfield. This was a big bummer. I saw this movie and thought it was fine. It's not amazing, and I think as far as Nick Cage Dracula, I got a good feel of it. Maybe they could have pushed it a little bit more. It's not a perfect movie. It's very much so a studio kind of comedy film, and there's certain jokes that don't work. There's certain things that do. This is a Universal distributed film. They also distributed Cocaine Bear recently. That was a movie that I was also I was fine with it, but it didn't really go everywhere I needed it to or really wanted it to really, be a success or have it be the talk of the town. I think I slightly prefer Renfield a little bit more than Cocaine Bear, though. But still, this is kind of a bummer, especially when you look at the budget, $65 million, and it has an opening of $7.77 million. Now, these next couple numbers are going to be pretty tight, and this one is already kind of close to John Wick, so maybe, when we see the official ones come out tomorrow, it'll be number 3, but still, opening this low is still pretty bad, and worldwide, the total is only at 10 million. I think Universal and, a couple other studios have done a pretty good job of, selling kind of these crazy ideas or, movies where you have, a meme or a kind of a crazy thing to market. In this movie's case, you have the Cocaine Bear, you have Mithrigan, Smile, all that stuff. In this movie's case, it's Nick Cage is Dracula, and the main character is Renfield realizing he's in a toxic relationship. There's a way you can market that and aim it towards a modern audience, but especially the Nick Cage Dracula part, because Nick Cage is always such a crazy actor, and it didn't really work as much this time around, which is kind of a bummer, I gotta say. Universal's already had a pretty good time with the runs of Mithrigan and Cocaine Bear and anything else, so I'm not expecting them to be oh no, we're fucking broke. Obvious, they're still riding off, they're literally right now riding off of the success of Mario. That's their movie, so it doesn't matter too much, I guess. But still, especially now that I see the budget is this high and they're not even close to getting that, unless it gets a big boom, but I don't see it holding over well domestically. It's I think this movie definitely would have done better if you released it in October. I know it's a comedy film, but one of the main characters is Dracula. The lead is Renfield. There's some horror elements to this. You can market this as a Halloween comedy, and it probably would have done a lot better. Oh well, let's move on to number 5, which is Air, making $7.72 million, adding to a domestic total of $33 million. Now, as far as Ben Affleck's other films go, it has outgrossed Live by Night by $23 million and Gone Baby Gone by $13 million. It's $59 million behind The Town. Not sure if it's going to get that much. Worldwide, it is sitting at $54 million. So it has outgrossed Live by Night by $33 million and Gone Baby Gone by $20 million. $98 million behind The Town, and obviously, if it outgrosses The Town, we would be talking about the Argo stats. That's how we usually do do the info and my note-taking for the box office, but obviously we're not there yet. I don't think this movie, as much as it, is being praised by critics and also audiences are really enjoying it, I don't see this really having as much of a staying power to, like, last as much as it needs to, especially to, like, double its $70 to $90 million budget. And obviously we talked last week, and Amazon acquired the, rights for this movie, so when it'll come out Amazon Prime original at one point, so maybe they've already covered the cost of it, maybe they're all good, but still, like, I think we just have to look at this as like, well, it was a moderate kind of, slightly better than expected hit, because usually these kind of movies, these like more adult kind of dramas, kind of just come and go. Like she said recently, a couple months ago, that was like that's a movie and it kind of aimed for like an adult audience, and that flopped, so I mean, still, it's outgrown some of Ben Affleck's other directed films, and, it's doing a little bit better than I thought it would, so there you go. Anyways, let's move on to number 6, which is Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Oh boy, making $7.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $74 million. So for the directors, it has outgrossed Game Night by $5 million, so this is officially both worldwide and domestically their highest grossing film. Good on them. Worldwide, it is sitting at $157 million. So it has crossed over the initial production budget, because that budget, of course, is $150 million. So it has crossed over the initial point, but obviously, as we all know at this point, you need to double that in order to be considered a success. You need to, and in some cases with some of these big budget blockbusters, you need to make a little bit more than doubling it. Sometimes there's hidden costs that you aren't completely aware of. Only people on the inside know what's up with that. I think this movie, it's not having the same kind of like carry on success that I was kind of hoping after its kind of moderate hit kind of opening weekend, which is a big bummer, because this is a really good movie. It is so good. So if you still have a chance to go see this, if you haven't seen it yet, please give it a shot. It is so much fun. But if you, for whatever reason, don't want to support this in the theaters, I am still going to maintain that once this movie hits streaming, but specifically like the PVODs, where you have to, pay like $20 to rent it because it's not available on Blu-ray yet, so this is premium content. I think this movie will be a little bit bigger there. I think we will be seeing a bit of a boom. I'm not sure if that'll lead to a sequel announcement, but I know they're making like a TV show for Paramount Plus, but I want to see this movie have like a good second life, similar to how Game Night, it came to theaters and people were kind of raving about, the critics that saw it were really raving about it, and it, had a moderate good run, but then once it hit, streaming, home video, it was like, oh yeah, this is getting kind of like a cult following now. People are really catching on to how good this movie is. I'm hoping that's the same with Dungeons and Dragons, and potentially we can get more. It would be really great if we see this and it's like, oh, it had like a so-so kind of run, and then they get a sequel just based off of, word of mouth, and then, home rentals and stuff like that, and then they're like, well, let's make a sequel, put in theaters, and then it does better. That would be great. It's like the Pitch Perfect effect. Pitch Perfect, it was fine. The box office run was kind of so-so for the first movie, but then it gained traction once it hit HBO and all that stuff, and then they were able to make their sequel, hit it to theaters, and then, one of the highest grossing movies that year. So I'm not trying to say this movie is of the same quality of the Pitch Perfect series, if that deters you from watching Dungeons & Dragons. Anyways, let's move on. Number 7 was Susame, a movie that I saw in the theater, and it was really fantastic. It's doing fine, I believe. Like, it made $5 million here domestically, but worldwide it is already sitting at a total of $261 million. I don't know what the budget is. It was not listed on Wikipedia or the numbers by the time of me doing this video. But with a number like that, that's pretty fantastic. I have to assume that they're doing pretty okay. So if you have not seen this, like, I don't know how much longer it's going to be in theaters, but please go check it out. It's sincerely, the best, like, compared to Mario, compared to The Amazing Maurice, this is the best animated film so far this year. This is the one that, the ones down the line. Spider-Verse, obviously, that's probably going to be fantastic, but like Elemental, the Pixar one, or like Migration, the next Illumination one, they have to compete with this. Like, oh, you think you can be as good as this one was? I don't think so. Number 8 is Mafia Mama, making $2 million on a budget of, similar to Susame, I don't know, not listed. Doesn't really matter though. Like, this movie, like, we have a couple different movies coming out next weekend that probably aren't going to be big blockbusters, but they're definitely going to be making around this much. It's enough to push the bottom 4 out of this top 10 out, so I don't think this movie's going to stick around much. I was going to pull up Catherine Hardwicke, the director's other films, and go like, oh, this movie had the lowest opening, and it's not going to gross this much money, but it already outgrossed this indie film, and it's like, is that even really worth it? I don't want to dog on this movie too much. It was a mediocre kind of comedy. Some people in my theater were definitely cracking up at it, so it will have kind of its fans if it hits TV, and some people may discover it there, like, oh, this is pretty okay. So I don't know. I just I just don't want to dog on this one too much. It hurts my heart a little bit for Toni Collette. You know, I don't know how much it cost either. Like I'm not. It's not probably not the biggest budget thing in the world, but $2 million definitely won't cover the expensive trip they all had to take to go film this movie. So I don't know. Let's just move on to number 9, which is Scream 6, making $1.4 million, adding to a domestic total of $106 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $166 million, so it has outgrossed Scream 3 by $5 million, and it is now behind Scream 2 by $6 million and Scream 1 by $7 million. I am pretty positive that it's not going to be here next weekend. This is its final time in the top 10 for these box office talk videos. So let me just say this right now. If it never makes that money to outgross those other two films to be the highest grossing Scream film domestically and worldwide, you know, if it never does that, that's fine, because it already, you know, it's already made so much and it's already done incredibly well, especially compared to how Scream 5 did last year. However, if it does manage to get that money and outgross these two, that's pretty spectacular, to say the least. You know, I'm glad this franchise, you know, this consistently pretty good franchise has still got a lot of steam left in it. And finally, closing out the video, number 10, Nefarious, making $1.3 million on a budget of I'm not sure what, but if you've seen the trailer, like I have, like 2 times in the theater somehow, it looks cheap as fuck. So I'm sure it didn't cost that much. You know, funny story, I had plans to go see this tomorrow on my day off. I was like, I know it looks cheap and it's like a bad horror movie, but, you know, I want to go see it. You know, I like to see movies. What else am I going to do on my day off? And then I found out when looking through the comments, like, who got their predictions right? Oh, okay, no one did. I saw some comments going like, you know, Jackson, Nefarious, movie coming out next weekend, is from the same team behind Unplanned, and they're involved with like some of the God's Not Dead movies, and I was like, you gotta be shitting me. So I looked it up, found that out, and I was like, ooh, returning my ticket. Not gonna waste time with that shit. So yeah, this movie made $1.3 million. It got some audience out there, it got some money from some people, but it will not get money from me, at least anymore. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, once again, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and then number 2, Evil Dead Rise. I think that's going to be the very obvious, you know, 2, you know, number 1, number 2, and then the rest are going to be tricky. So I think number 3 will be Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. I think, you know, I think Jake Gyllenhaal, you know, kind of like an action thriller, more so thriller kind of movie, you know, military. So I think there will be a little bit more of a drive for people to go see that one. Number 4 might be risky. I think Beau is Afraid will get into number 4, considering how low the numbers are, you know, for this weekend, and I only expect really, maybe Guy Ritchie can get into double digits, it can sneak in there, but maybe like in the 10s, not 20s. Evil Dead Rise will probably get pretty high. I think everything else will be back to single digit, and, you know, judging by how Hereditary had an opening of 13 million, Midsommar had like an opening of like 6 or 7 or something. It was a pretty low number there too, but, you know, considering, you know, those 2 movies, they've been talked about, they've been seen, there are fans of those movies, and Beau is Afraid currently is getting a pretty big, you know, conversation started about like, what is this movie about? Some people are really digging it as an art film, some people are really hating it, it's supposed to be shocking, some people like it, hey, what is this all about? So I think that'll be enough to get it to the number 4 spot. I think there will be some kind of drive to go see it, and then it'll probably drop drastically, like, you know, like Mother did when that one opened, and it was like kind of a low opening, and the next weekend it was like, it's gone. People started talking about this movie and how it sucks. It's too confusing, it's too weird. And then number 5, I'm going with The Pope's Exorcist. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.